Hello everyone, welcome back to Talking to Unicorns, episode 17. This week I am joined by a storyboarder slash illustrator slash animator, Tim. Hello, how are you doing?
Good, Connor. How are you?
I'm doing very well, thanks. So,
disappointed on number 17.
Yes, number 17. It's a special number. So, Tim, can you just tell us a bit about who you are, what you do, and all that good stuff?
Who I am a storyboard artist, illustrator, and animator. Yes, I've been doing it for a few years now. I work for a lot of ad agencies. Been freelancing for 20 years. Mm-hmm. That's a bit of a basic rundown on what I do, not what I am, sorry.
Nice. So freelancing for 20 years, how did you get into illustrating and storyboarding and all that stuff?
Well, it's a bit of a long story. I always was good at drawing, so naturally good at drawing from early days. Right from the beginning, loved art at school. Yeah. Left school, didn't know what I was going to do, mucked around a bit, was a bit of a bum, stumbled upon a guy who did animation, and I thought, wow, this is fantastic. And I taught myself how to be an animator and kind of went from there. And I did that for 9 years, doing 2D animation for children's TV. And then one day I thought, I need to grow up a bit because that's a bit of a labor of love and it doesn't pay very well. Mm-hmm. So I thought, I need to do something a bit more responsible, earn some money. And I stumbled upon a guy who worked in an ad agency and he talked about storyboarding, and I thought, give that a go. So basically stumbled into that and then 20 years later, here I am.
Nice.
So I've been mainly storyboarding for 20 years, but I do illustration, still do a bit of animation work and so on.
So for all of us who don't know what storyboarding is, what is it? Like, what does a storyboarder do?
The storyboarding I do is for ad agencies. It's you're working along with the creatives in an ad agency, and if they have an ad campaign coming up, they come up with the weird and wacky ideas, and then they need to visualize it for their clients to try and sell it in. So whether it's a TV commercial, storyboard for a TV commercial, or if it's a print ad or a social media campaign, they'll get me to just conceptualize what it might look like. And they take my drawings, which have to try and, obviously you have to take their brief and interpret it and try and convey it in the best way to sell their idea to the client. Mm-hmm. If that makes sense.
Nice. No, completely. And so I assume as a storyboarder, it means that you mostly work with bigger businesses, or is it something that smaller businesses need sometimes?
This is something, it's been changing over time. So up until the global financial crisis, it was a bit of a boom time, and basically everyone was advertising on TV. So you were doing storyboards for all the big companies and for a lot of small companies. But since then, everyone's watching their pennies, and storyboarding is something they can cut costs on. So I have been doing less and less of it recently. And it does, you still get them, but it's for the big companies now. There's so much for the smaller companies. So that's what it is.
So at the moment, with all the things that you do, how would you say you split your time between like storyboarding, illustrating, all those types of things?
Well, I used to be mainly 95% storyboarding, but the last 5 years, maybe 5 years or so, I was slowly getting into more illustration work as the storyboarding's quietening up. You still get storyboards coming from time to time, but I used to be basically swamped doing storyboards every week. I'd just have 4 on the go constantly at any one time. and now I'm sitting here waiting for them to come in. So I do more illustration work, more animation work, and whatever I can get my hands on, really.
Nice. Well, one thing that's really interesting is a client who got in touch with you through the Unicorn Factory actually got back in touch with me to tell me how good your website was.
Really?
Yeah, they actually said, have you seen his website? It's like next level. It was actually a client that I work for as well. So who are the types of clients that you work with nowadays? Like, yeah.
Well, I still work for all the ad agencies around the place. So it's I'm living in Nelson now. I used to be an Aucklander. So most of my ad agency clients are from Auckland. I've got a few overseas. But you know, I'm trying to get more into working for smaller companies or whoever. I do a few jobs for graphic design agencies, that kind of thing. And you're starting to get into working directly with clients as well, which is quite fun. So you're kind of cutting out the middle person.
Nice.
Which is good.
Nice. So is that something that you've just started doing recently, or?
Well, this year I'm trying to focus on it more. I realized I did a job at the beginning of the year, which was a KFC job, an animation ad. And I just, I've got to watch out what I say. You might need to edit this, but actually,
yeah.
About to dump someone in it.
I'll just mute this entire part of the conversation, and I'll just see us nodding and laughing.
Oh no, you're sending me off on a really bad tangent here. Yeah, I've got to be very careful here. I don't want to annoy some of my clients.
Yeah, well, we can move to something else then. Like, okay, so one question that I have is, so when you work with ad agencies, there's not really much pitching that you need to do the actual clients, because it's kind of already decided, hey, this is the type of work that I need. But now that you are going out and having to have those conversations with clients, how does the conversation start? Do they find you? Do you find them? And what does like the pitch sound like in each situation?
This is a bit of a learning curve for me. So you get all sorts of clients out there. There's also all sorts of people, and some people value your work, some people don't. Some people have different opinions on, obviously what you're worth, how quickly you can do something. I tend to stay away from jobs that have no budget or very low budgets, because they end up being the biggest pains in the backsides. And the big clients still tend to go through the agencies because they don't really care about the budgets. So I'm trying to aim myself in that middle road. And it's really just putting the feelers out on what a client is wanting, what, how much they value what they're trying to do, what their product is, and how much they're willing to put up in advertising it, creating some visual ad or whatever to advertise their product. So it's really just trying to feel them out a little bit, and everyone's different. So
with creative work like illustration work or animation work or storyboarding, how do you value the work yourself? Because do you value it based on your skills and or experience, or do you base it off the client, or how do you kind of value it yourself?
Yeah, another tricky question. It's
got them all
basically basically I have a bottom line, and I know what I won't work for, what my bottom hourly rate is, and I just go up from there. So working for ad agencies, obviously they have big budgets and you can charge a bit more. But I mean, it's not inexhaustible. You have to be sensible about it. But then obviously for smaller clients, they might obviously they don't have as big pot of money to spend. So sometimes I just say, try and get a gauge of their budget and say, you know, this is what you might get for your budget, rather than trying to do an hourly rate or whatever.
Yep.
At the end of the day, you always want to please your client. You don't want to be ripping them off. You don't want to be, you know, doing a bad job. So it's trying to figure out how much money they're willing to spend, what approach you can do. Like for animation, for example, you can do, you know, you can do full-on cell traditional animation, which is very time consuming, or you can cheat it a bit and do some vector stuff and or whatever, or just graphic, you know, more motion graphics or something like that. So different ways of doing things.
Nice. So what are like the projects that you've worked on that you'd say are like your most favorite work, or like the work that you're most proud of?
Oh, the work I'm most proud of are the jobs that tend to come in and they let you have a bit of free reign on what you want to do. So they don't stand over you and tell you to do things. An
Just out of
example
interest, do people who hire illustrators like you actually tell you like what they want it to look like? Like, is it common that people don't give you free reign in terms of like doing your creative thing?
Yes, you get a mix. So yeah, I've been in it long enough, and you can kind of gauge people pretty quickly how the job's going to go. A lot of the young guys who come in and they're it can be anyone. There are a lot of people who do have a very firm idea of what they want, and they kind of stand over you and direct you. Probably the worst jobs are the ones where it's going to a company and they have a lot of executives who look over it, and every executive has their own opinion on something, whether or not it's a good opinion or not. So I have had probably my worst illustration job I had was one just like that, where I did something, I really liked it. I won't say who the client was. And basically it was the end of a race, and it was some children racing, doing a running race through a finish line, and everyone changed. It went through the executives and everyone had their own opinion, and so it just changed and evolved into this yucky, horrible looking thing where, you know, they wanted a girl in the front and two boys behind her, and I had it like a boy was in the front and there was a girl and a boy behind, and so it ended up looking like this girl was being chased by two boys. And it's like things like that, like which I think about, and I've been doing it for a few years now, so you have a bit of an idea of how people might interpret it. But other people have different ideas on it. One of them wanted, her teeth bigger and little things like that. It's just
The
most fun jobs are the ones where basically they just say, I did a water bottle, and the client just said, just do me a label and an animation. That was it. Do whatever you want. And they loved it. Had no changes at all. Brilliant.
Nice. And can you anticipate those types of clients when you meet them the first time, that they are can you kind of sense that that's what they're going to be like?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Nice. And do they tend to be smaller businesses, or is it not specific?
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It can be any. So for instance, this job that I just did for KFC, it actually had no changes at all. So, and it went through a whole lot of people. So that's fantastic.
Nice. That's amazing.
And the other job I was talking about with the running race, that went through a whole lot of people too, and that was for a big company. But
so just in terms of because you sometimes just don't know what a client's going to be like, do you always charge hourly for the work that you do, or do you have project-based pricing? Or
I try to do project-based pricing. I'll very rarely do an hourly rate. And I normally just say to the client up front, I'll say, we'll work to this budget. I normally give them a free round of changes, minor tweaks and things like that. But then I say to them, if they're going to change the brief completely, obviously that's a whole new negotiation. If they get silly about it. So you have to draw the line somewhere.
Nice. Well, one thing that I found very interesting about the work that you do And this is just like looking at what other graphic designers on the Unicorn Factory have done and other illustrators, is that you can always see that certain illustrators or graphic designers have a very specific style of work. But then when I look at the work that you have done, so you've submitted 4 case studies to the Unicorn Factory, and each of those case studies has a very unique style or a very distinct style. How did you manage to develop that? Is that just like years of experience, or like like
just from being the way I am and working in ad agencies, you don't want to be stale. You want to try and vary your work that you do. Otherwise, you're going to get typecast into doing a particular thing. Yeah. So I'll if you do a job for Coca-Cola or something like that, you don't want to go and do that same style for Pepsi, do you?
Yeah.
So you do have to change it up. And that's one of the reasons I've been, I have had a lot of work over the years, is that I can change my style and do most things. Can't do everything, but have a go at doing as much as I can.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, I thought it was really awesome, super impressive. Now, one thing that I wanted to have a chat to you about also is just the impact of the whole COVID on your business. I've had this conversation with a lot of the freelancers on the Unicorn Factory, and there's been a wide range of answers, but how has it impacted the storyboarding, illustrating, and animation industry?
It's a bit hard to gauge, because things have been, with this new world that we're in with Netflix and YouTube and all that, people aren't watching as many ads on TV. So the advertising storyboarding has quietened up, regardless of COVID. The first lockdown we had, it definitely went quiet, which I actually quite enjoyed, because I actually got to have a break. And then, but then the second lockdown, didn't notice any difference. It's just been, usual. So people still want to advertise. I think the first lockdown, people were maybe a bit worried about what was going to happen. And then they've realized life goes on. So no big difference really. Nice. From what I've seen.
Nice. Well, I usually reserve the last section of our conversation to give some little tips and tricks to people who might want to get into the storyboarding or freelance space. Do you have any learnings that you'd like to share with anyone who might just enjoy doing it but hasn't thought of it as like a professional career yet?
It's a lot of hard work. You do have to have some natural ability, I believe. So I've seen people try and get into the illustration world who really, they're really not cut out for it, and you can see they're not going to go anywhere. So you do have to be a bit realistic about your ability. And then if you do have the ability, you just have to go out there and practice. Don't, as we were saying before, don't stick with one style. Do as much stuff as you can. And just keep learning. It's at the moment I've been teaching myself, like getting into the 3D illustration thing, and just fascinated by what's available today. Like, these young guys coming through, there's no excuse really. There's so much stuff online. There's free, like Blender. I've been teaching myself Blender on the computer, and it's absolutely amazing.
Nice.
Free program, free tutorials. You just have to sit down and do it. You don't need to go to university or anything. Just do it if you're creative.
Well, I've just started doing that with video editing. I've just started looking up a bunch of like tutorials on like video editing so that I can make some content for the Unicorn Factory. And it's amazing what kind of free stuff is out there, just like ready for you to absorb and package up into your job.
Exactly. It's amazing. It's just, So anyone who's creative, just get into it. Do it.
Nice. And do you have like any like ideas or strategies on where to start when it comes to finding your first client, or building connections in the agency space potentially?
That's a tough one because I remember when I first started, and basically I had this really bad portfolio, but you have to start somewhere. So my first portfolio of work was quite embarrassing when I look back at it. But I just, you draw the line, you go, I have to, you have to have some body of work to show people. And then you just get out there and door knock. And that's what I did. I did it for a year, and it was really tough going. But people saw that I was committed. You don't have to be the best artist in the world as long as you're consistent and you're reliable. Yeah. For the big things. And if people can trust you, if you answer your phone when they ring, don't let it go to answer phone. Just always have your phone there. You're always available, and you can always help people. You'll pick up work. You just be committed. If that's what you want to do, be there and do it.
Nice. I love it. I couldn't agree more. I feel like that is I couldn't agree more. Like, being committed is probably one of the most important things. Tim, thank you so much for your time. How can we find out more about you? How can we find out about your work? And yeah.
Well, you can go to my website.
I'll link it below.
It tells me all about myself. People are more than welcome to get in touch with me directly. I love helping people. So if anyone wants to ask any more questions, they're more than welcome to approach me. Nice. Yes, there you go. Hope that helps.
It does. Well, in that case, I'll wrap it up. That, my friends, was episode number 17 of Talking to Unicorns. All the links and all that fun stuff will be down below. Other than that, thanks so much for stopping by, and we'll see you back for the next one. Bye.
Thanks, Brian.